So welcome to the stream. I hope the audio is clear. The idea is to create a drivable coffin. I will just start with the very beginning, which is creating a folder for the modification. So if you don't have it, just go to Documents, BeamNG, Modifications, and create or find your unpacked mod folder. Then create a new folder, which will be coffin modding for dummies for now. Then you have to create a vehicles folder because you're making a vehicle. And then you make a name for your vehicle, which will be coffin modding for dummies again. So then you have your mod folder. I usually create a folder for the JBeam as well, because that's easy to find stuff. And then we can start with modding. I will first show how to get something in game so that it shows up in the selector, which I will just be lazy and copy the main JBeam and information file of, in this case, the Ventray. So here we go. I'll start renaming everything. I open them. I'll just have to close the rest. So it will be coffin modding for dummies. Where does it come from? Let's start shitposting already. What kind of thing is the car? Body style? It's coffin. It's a compact car. Well, it's kinda correct. So those colors are from the Ventray, but we won't really need them. So that's the information file, and then we rename everything from Roadster to Coffin. Finally replace all. We don't need the glow maps. Also don't need skins for this. So the main part of the vehicle is this, is the main selection. So this is the opening bracket of the JBeam, is the closing bracket. This is how you start a part, and this is how you close the part. Then you have the controller, which you can control the vehicle controller or different things. So for other mods I use another controller or more controllers. And this is just for some sounds, additional modifications, license plate design, paint design, and the main chassis, which is a core slot, so you have to select something so it can't be empty. Then, as Toro says, you can create a folder outside the unpacked folder, but you always have to restart the game in order to recognize any modifications. So if I start BeamNG now, I should see the modification. It won't do anything because we don't have anything yet, but we will start on that. So loading the game takes a bit of time, so you can start with other things already. I will just be lazy again and copy the chassis J-beam of the fin tray. Oh wait, wrong folder. To the coffin, because then we have the right layout already. And find and replace roadster again. So 67. So let's delete what we don't need in the slots. So this is the slots part where you can select parts. So we don't need a bumper, fenders, we just need a body, which will be the coffin, a tow hitch, why not, a hood, we don't need those, firewall, grill, that's it, a suspension, we kinda need a suspension. Also this is not really used. And the body front, we don't need those either. Then here we have our notes section. I will just delete everything because we kinda start from scratch until the last group part. And let's check if the game is already started. Yes. So here you can already see we have a coffin from some quality country. It's a compact car. That works, but if we spawn it now, we don't have any nodes or beams, it will probably just spawn the default car and throw an error in the console. There you go. Here you can also see library BeamNG, unable to load the vehicle, obviously because we don't have anything. And then we'll start with the J-beam, because why not, then we have something in game. Just delete this. Triangles. Pi. Then we have a chassis with 3 nodes on it, which is a nice start to work from. But if we reload the vehicle now, we should have 3 nodes somewhere on the ground. There we go. Here is a node. A wild node appears. So then we can start creating a mesh, because that's easier for now. We'll just switch to another view, and let's find some pictures of coffin. So we'll probably go with something, yeah, like the standard coffin, which could be funny. We'll just copy to it to paint and show the idea. So the engine will be like here. And then our poor driver has to sit where your head would be if you were laying in the coffin. So you're already at the right location if you crash. Then your wheels will be here. And there we have our drivable coffin mock-up. There we go. Now start creating it. So the coffin will be probably around 230 long. So I'll just scale this one already, because I'm again lazy. does not have to be that high. I think this would be fine. And now just start working on a very basic shape. Will you just use a mirror modifier? Tada, coffin. We'll rename it to coffin main so we can easily find it in the mesh later. Then we can whip it up in game really quickly. This will be a coffin main. Don't need this. We'll save the Blender file in the right location already, so we can easily export it to the right location as well. So if you click export and apply modifiers, it will be in the right location. Then I will do the easy route to make a JBeam and export it to object. And then we can open it in B&E. So open. There we have our 3 lonely nodes. We import the mesh from the object file. There we have it. And then we start copying, pasting nodes. I will use well, 2 nodes should be enough, so now 3 rows, so 2 rows of nodes. Then it will approximately be at this location. Oh, 1, 5. And then it's just finding the right node locations. I will call those the frame 001 and use the O for the lower row of nodes. Those can go around 05, should be spread out evenly. Should be a bit wider, probably around this, even more. Still need a bit more. That's again too much. And so I'll continue adding more nodes to our nice coffin. Next one will be around the center point. Like this. Don't forget to rename them, otherwise you will have errors again. Why this point is here. Oh. So 545. There they are. And the last two. Which are here. There we go. So this is the lowest structure of our node structure. Then we'll just copy paste it to get the upper structure, and then we replace the 0 by a 1 because that's easy. Also for finding the right beams and doing more work. It's 49 high. And kaboom, there we have our nodes. Now we need our reference nodes. And for this you need the first node, the back node, left, up, left corner, right corner. The last two are not really needed. So I'll just delete those. Our reference node will be 01R, then back will be 05, and left will be, of course, the left nodes, and up will be this one. Then we have our nodes and reference nodes. They will make it lighter first, because a coffin is not that heavy. I think this is 20 nodes, so 1.5 would be reasonable. Then we don't need those either, and go with the moderate value for the beam spring in order to have it not explode. Then we'll start adding beams. It's easy to do something like this, and then just triangulate it. Then the upper half, mirrored from the lower half. And there we go with the horizontal nodes. And then the vertical nodes at So now I just thought about it. The upper half will be like open, so we don't need those beams, only the beams around the coffin. So we will do that again really quickly. Delete those. There we go. And I made a mistake here. From here, I guess. Yes. There we go. Now we'll add supports in order to have the 13, 14 notes not vibrating, because that would be not really nice. So just add those beams. So. And then if it's still too floppy, we will fix it later. Now we reload the coffin, and there we have our object in game within a few minutes of streaming. As you can see, it's really floppy. Here it rotates on its own, which is because it's not really fixed in place. If I add beams like this, it should be better, I think. There we go. Isn't it ugly? Now I can drive over it with a blue bug. Bike off him. So as you could see, the 15 notes were not really on the right position. I have to be a bit wider. 25. 26 even. So now let's find out how big the engine of, let's say, what shall we do? Blue bug. Yeah, let's take the blue bug engine. Let's see how big it is. Then we go to the BeamNG main folder, the vehicles, Find the blue bug. Vehicles blue bug. Sort on type the engine, which is nicely separated. Then I have my own folder for meshes, so I don't mess with other things. Then open a new Blender, delete the rest, and import the file, Bluebook engine. So that's quite the engine. I'll just hide what we don't need. Are we going full retard already? Or just copy everything in our coffin with some node offset? Would that be possible? Yes, that would be possible. Like this. I think we need a larger coffin for that. Or use a smaller engine. So what do you want? A small engine and a fast and easier to drive car, or an ugly coffin with a big engine? I would go for a lighter car. Because that's easier to create. And more fun, for me at least. You could also put the drivetrain of the a super of the Civetta bolide in it. Or even something else, it wouldn't really matter. Just remove this for now. I think that size wise it is a bit like this. With just a pigeon engine. There you go. Could be as fast as this. Or does it have to have a V8? Okay, let's see how big deviate from the bullet is. The super. Just hide everything we don't need. Then we could do it like this one, with the engine in the back. Or use the V8 and make another coffin, because that's not even that hard. Could go for something like this. So about how I learned to make this stuff, it's by reverse engineering and just playing around with stuff. I'll just try to put a big engine in it. Not the 6-cylinder. Also not really the big block, I think. Just use a small block. Just start removing everything we don't need. You won't need those headers. We need those. We need those. A carb. A cooling fan. Pulleys will probably be added later. Then we will just remodel things later. Don't forget the valve covers. those engines sit a bit like this. Then we can have the radiator in front of the coffin body. Just apply the location, rotation and scale, because those won't really change anymore. And maybe start editing the headers already. We'll delete one side, mirror them to the other side, and start modifying them. In a real one, the headers will probably be open. So we can delete this part of the header and only use this. There they are. Could have a bit of a nicer angle to them. Like this. And then I'll add the engine to the car in game. Just save it, export it. Also the object file again. So we can use it. Then we go to the Blue Book files again. Here. To the engine. To the transmission, if there is any. Here we have it. Back to our own files. We'll just keep those names. So this is a small block. The internals of the small block. And the big block, we'll remove that one. The internals of the big block can be removed as well. Then the intakes, we will only use the 4-barrel one. So the 2-barrel can be deleted. The twin 4 barrels as well. And the rest as well for now, but those are easy to add back when we need them. Oh wait, I'm just removing too much. The exhaust manifold. only need those for the big one, for the small one, sorry. There we go. Now in order to make it show up, you need to match the slot of this one with the chassis one. So here with an engine slot, we'll copy this one. To here. Then open the file in the editor. There you can see it's completely misaligned, because here we have the mesh, here we have the physics model. So we have to move it. I prefer to do it by editing these coordinates instead of using selecting, scaling and moving. Might be a bit more work, but I think it's better to do it like this. So I'll just try something, and if it needs to be moved further back, then I will trial and error until I find the right position. Or you can look up in the mesh where you have to place your coordinates. So I'll be lazy again. Then we'll move the upper nodes a bit more downwards. So there we go. Then the blue book has engine mount nodes, which we won't use. We'll keep it fairly simple and remove those. So here we go. Then for the exhaust manifold nodes, I think we will keep them in a slightly different position for now, but we'll have to change them to individual headers later. So this works for now, but it's not that perfect. There we go to the chassis again to mount our engine. It will be mounted to the first two nodes, node positions. So I'll first delete the extra R and extra L of the nodes and replace frame 5 with 1 frame 7 with O2. For the two lower nodes, and for the upper nodes I will do the same. But with the 1-2 nodes. This will probably work better. Then we reload it. And as you can see, we have an engine. Somewhat. And it stresses out the complete structure, because it's also loading the transmission, I think. Yes. Does this work better? There we have, no. It doesn't. It kills our whole mesh. And the engine. Too bad. Shit happens. So we can try to reduce the temp value, because it's rather high, to like 300, 250, 1000. And see what happens then. Probably the same or not, no. It's a bit wobbly, but that's okay. Then we'll move, open first, and then move the transmission. You can see the transmission is currently inside the engine, but we will move it to I think to the 0 line. We'll copy just this position for every transmission there is, and delete half of the transmissions we won't need. So the manual transmissions, we only need the normal one. I like the race one, so let's keep that. Remove the automatic transmissions. And the rest of their stuff. So now we have an engine, transmission, and a coffin. Let's see what explodes now. So now I only have two options, and it does not explode, which is always a good sign. No instability detected. So then we go back to our mesh. To the coffin. We'll select those and just start working on our mesh a bit. So now we have a hollow coffin. There we go. Then we can already make some kind of cutout for the engine. I'll just use the knife. Doesn't have to be fancy because the engine itself won't be fancy either. Something like this. We'll have to cut through the mesh, then back. So, just delete those faces. Oh, it did not cut through. So we should start again. So knife, bit of an angle here. And again it failed me. Ah, that's better. We'll probably edit the headers. Maybe let them face upwards or directly outwards, so maybe not make them angled. Like this. Make it a nice even structure. And there we have to cut out of for the headers. You can now always make it more fancy. Just export the mesh again. And there you see it. Then I think I can try to draw some kind of suspension setup for it. Maybe put the wheels behind the engine or in front of the engine. Maybe like this. With some kind of leading arms. And trailing arms. I will also need a roll bar, because a coffin is bad enough, so a bit like this. Then we have our set driver. Like this. You'll probably be terrified of what's going to happen. So I think I will try to create a front axle today and then leave the rest for another time, and before we make a vehicle in one day. So this would be roughly the front suspension shape. We'll just need to find a way to steer it. We'll probably use a tie rod and some kind of lever mechanism to rotate it. So the front part, this will be the axle. Then we can try to use a leaf spring, or you could even use a normal torsion spring or something else. Wouldn't really matter. Could try to draw it again. Let's make another drawing. So the front wheels will be here. With a tie rod in front of behind the car. Just use blue for the springs. We could do either a spring that goes like this, like a coil spring, or mount a transverse leaf spring that would look a bit like this to the middle of the vehicle, which will have a radiator here. So it will need another part of the frame to hold the radiator and the frame for the leaf spring. So I'll just try to make this move. First, we have to give the material, otherwise it won't even show up. We export it again. Export the object again. Then I will cannibalize another suspension to make it a new suspension. Here we have some suspension. Doesn't really matter what I use. It won't be independent, it will be just a front suspension. Then where will we place the wheels? Well, it will be here, around minus 145. And the rest can be changed. It will be coilover will be leaf. We'll need a sway bar. We'll need this. Just axle. Then how did we call this? The arm. Call it like this again. Then we'll keep those nodes. Remove those. Keep the real data. The leaf will be changed later. Sway bar can be removed. Keep the steering. Fender will be removed. So then we have some kind of basic setup for the suspension. Then we open the object again. Here we go. And the suspension. There is the current suspension. I just disable the steering because it is in an annoying spot. You can do that by these brackets, a star and a slash. Then we'll remove the whole assembly. So we said that the wheels will be in minus 145. So then it will have to steer around that point somewhat. So the lower points will be a bit in front of it, and the upper ones will be right on top of minus 145. Then we have here the steering node, which will be 135 for now, and a stability node in front as well. So like this. Then we can move this down a little bit. And I made some kind of mistake. Oh. There we go. As you can see, it's not in the right position for the width yet. You can do it by doing this, checking this. It's at 052. 052. Then we have this one a bit further to the inside for stability, because then it can damp out any vibrations. And then we have the beginning of our axle. Then we'll just use 4 more nodes in the middle to create a solid axle. Just copy this, delete most of it. And put them in the right positions. So right in the middle. Let's just remove the upper one because we won't need that. This one can go a bit lower. And then we should have a decent structure. I'll switch those. Oh, actually not, I won't do that. And I'll just make it J-beam for this. There we have some kind of axle. And then connect it to those nodes. Just do it like this. Then it can rotate. A bit. We'll add a tie rod. Which will make sure that both sides will steer an equal amount. And there we have our axle, which explodes. That's a nice jump scare. Just change the values a bit. See what happens. There we have our axle. Just not in game yet. Because I made a mistake. I did not rename it properly. This should be coffin axle F and not ULF axle F. Still not. Failed to get random mesh. Oh. Coffin. Axle F. Export it again. And I made a typo. Of course. There we go. There we have our ugly axle in game. And it moves like an axle should. Then we can add wheels and hope it does not explode. There we go. It has wheels. No steering yet, but we have something. Then next time I will try to create some kind of steering assembly and do the same for the rear suspension, but without steering assembly obviously. And then we should have a drivable coffin already, just without textures and with a very basic mesh and no radiator and stuff like that. But we will have a coffin that drives. So I hope you like the stream and see you next week.